In a move that seems somewhat random, Trump has announced the withdrawal of all 2,000 American troops from Syria. Watch.
We've been fighting for a long time in Syria. I've been president for almost 2 years, and we've really stepped it up. And we have won against ISIS. We've beaten them, and we've beaten them badly. We've taken back the land, and now it's time for our troops to come back home. I get very saddened when I have to write letters or call parents or wives or husbands of soldiers who have been killed fighting for our country. It's a great honor. We cherish them, but it's heartbreaking. There's no question about it. It's heartbreaking. Now we've won. It's time to come back. They're getting ready. You're going to see them soon. These are great American heroes. These are great heroes of the world because they fought for us, but they've killed ISIS, who hurts the world. And we're proud to have done it. And I'll tell you, they're up there looking down on us. And there is nobody happier or more proud of their families to put them in a position where they've done such good for so many people. So our boys, our young women, our men, they're all coming back, and they're coming back now. We won, and that's the way we want it, and that's the way they want it.
All right. There's a lot to say here. First, before I get into diving into the actual story here, let me just comment a little bit on this video. We've won? That's just not true. And I'm going to read a piece here from Democracy Now! That explains how, no, ISIS is not defeated yet. But apart from that, pointing at the sky and saying that's the way they want it, you're pulling troops out because the dead troops want them to be pulled out. I mean, I don't quite understand the absurdity of pointing to dead people and saying that's what they want, so it's a good move. Or even saying it's because of the families and because the troops have fought so hard. I mean, if that was the case, then Trump should also be pulling troops out of every other country they're in, but he's not doing that. So to make that the reason seems kind of absurd. That said, this is ultimately a good move. I mean, if you're against U.S. imperialism, this is a good move, but there are negative implications of it. Now, before I get there, I want to read this piece from Democracy Now! That kind of sums up the situation so far. Trump ordered the withdrawal despite opposition from within the White House. In September, Trump's national security advisor, John Bolton, had said U.S. troops would stay in Syria until Iranian troops and its proxy forces leave. While Trump claims ISIS has been defeated, a report by the United Nations in August found that up to 30,000 ISIS fighters remain in Iraq and Syria. President Trump's move has been praised by some in the American peace movement and some progressive lawmakers, as well as anti-interventionist Republicans, including Senators Rand Paul and Mike Lee, but other Republican lawmakers have openly criticized Trump. Senator Lindsey Graham said, quote, "An American withdrawal at this time would be a big win for ISIS, Iran, Bashar al-Assad of Syria, and Russia." Now, again, there are multiple ways to kind of take this news. So on one hand, yes, this is a good move. Ending U.S. imperialism in Syria is a good move. But as I said, there are negative implications. So let me read a bit about this piece from Haaretz. So, explained. Trump abandons Syria's Kurds. Will Turkey now crush their dream of a secular utopia? Without U.S. soldiers as a buffer, the Kurds are now stuck between Turkey, Assad, and ISIS. So, looking at a map of who controls what parts of Syria, the Kurds, which are in yellow, control Rojava, which is now also known as the Democratic Federation of Northern Syria, or DFNS for short. So that is a secular, and in many ways a progressive state within the chaos that is the Syrian civil war. And they've done that with the help of U.S. support. Rojava, and later the DFNS, governed its some 2 million people with an ideology antithetical to ISIS, promoting minority rights, religious tolerance, gender equality, and governing by direct democracy. Kurdish women fight in the Women's Protection Units and even famously held a rally in Raqqa, the former de facto capital of ISIS, to denounce violence against women after they helped defeat the terror group. Speaking on Wednesday, Erdogan said Turkey's target is never U.S. soldiers, highlighting both the importance of the U.S. presence in the region for the Kurds and Erdogan's growing frustration with his NATO ally. So, understand here that while America pulling the troops out of Syria I agree is ultimately a good move, it does have a negative impact on the Kurds. So the Kurds that have created the secular state within Syria, they've been able to do that because, or at least in part, because of the support from the US with air cover and weapons. So you have now a situation where America's pulling out. The Kurds no longer have this buffer. So Turkey can now, if they want, go after the Kurds and their secular state. And it sounds like that's what they're going to do. So on Thursday, Turkish Defense Minister Hulusi Akar was quoted as saying the YPG, which are the Kurdish forces, quote, can dig tunnels or ditches if they want. They can go underground if they want. When the time and place comes, they will be buried in the ditches they dug. No one should doubt this. So, again, just understand the implications here. While pulling troops out of Syria, I think is ultimately a good move because the U.S. should not be in all these wars. This will likely have a negative impact on the Kurds and their secular state in Syria. Now, there's also questions around the timing of this. So why is Trump doing this now? It's out of the blue. He apparently didn't consult anybody in Congress. Republicans were really caught off guard by this. So it's kind of weird. And it's weird that, you know, both Turkey, of course, as I showed you, and Russia support this, while a big ally of Trump, Israel, is against this. So it's kind of odd. And it might be something connected to Russia. I mean, again, this Mueller investigation continues. I honestly don't follow it too closely because I'm busy covering other stuff, but it might have some connection here. Now, again, this happened at a time when the Trump administration is moving to lift sanctions on 3 massive Russian corporations controlled in part by Russian oligarch Oleg Deripaska, the billionaire closely tied to Paul Manafort. So Trump is pulling troops out of Syria at the same time he's lifting sanctions on Russian corporations, while Russia also supports Trump pulling out of Syria. So all I'm saying here is you can look at this story from all different angles and understand that there are different angles to look at here. So on one hand, you have Trump pulling troops out of Syria, which for many progressives is a great move because it's putting an end to U.S. imperialism in Syria. You also have to look at the negative implications of even if pulling troops out is good, which it is, it will negatively impact our allies in the region, the Kurds, and at the same time understand that this is a good move for Russia. This is a bad move for Israel. So it's a weird thing that Trump is doing. It's out of the blue. It's benefiting Russia at the same time. Trump's lifting sanctions off Russian corporations. So if you are super engaged in the Mueller-Trump story, this is going to have a lot for you to think about. But if you don't care about that and you're like me, where it's, I mean, my position on this is we're going to find out what happens to Trump when it happens. If it happens, when this investigation's over, then who cares about why he's doing this? Ultimately, it's still a good move. But all I'm saying is understand the different angles here. And it's okay to think this is a good move while also questioning, why is Trump doing this? What was his motivation? Because Trump is not a progressive guy. If you've noticed, he's not a progressive guy. So it's kind of weird for him to make a progressive move like this. But ultimately, I just want people to understand that something can still be good while you can still question why it's happening.